So, a warm welcome to everyone to Presence, bringing the soul into dying and grieving, and the sacred moment of dying. I'm Megan Dawn, author, Death and Dying Guide, spiritual mentor, and interfaith minister. And I'm delighted to have Melanie Mayell. Is that how you pronounce your last name, Melanie? Good. I wondered. I think that's how it is. The Christchurch Death Cafe founder and Death Matters Conference founder, plus, I would say, creative soul extraordinaire. So, welcome, Melanie. Thank you for joining me tonight in these important conversations. I really appreciate you being here, and to all of you who are here. And a warm welcome to all of those who are participating with us via the recording. So, to give you a sense of how we will flow tonight, I'll begin with an overview of Presence, Bringing the Soul into Dying and Grieving, a memoir and guide. It's my newly released book. Melanie and I will then enter into our conversations and sharing. From there, I will lead a short meditation and then open the way for you all to share your experiences or any questions that you may have. So that will just give a general flow, and we'll just see how it all goes. So as we begin, I'd invite you all to gather yourselves inward, leaving your world, your work, your families, your house cleaning, leaving it all behind for now. And focus on your breath. A gentle inhalation and exhalation. Feeling your own natural rhythm of breath. And allowing the breath to drop deeper and deeper into your body. Relaxing fully in your body. Bringing your mind, heart, and soul into this sacred moment, into your sacred presence. And breathe. And simply opening to these words as you maintain your presence and openness. What is presence? Presence is an invisible reality that we feel. You may feel it in another who exudes a quiet knowing or a gentle stability. You may notice it in yourself when an inner, wise, and calm intelligence steps forward. Presence invites you to listen deeply from the whole of your body, not just your mind or heart. It invites you to listen from the entirety of your being. Presence asks you to feel all the way in and all the way down to what is moving through you in the moment, and to express it lovingly and truthfully. Presence is an invitation to honor your own being and every being in all forms, knowing the wonder of who you are and all are. Presence and courage walk hand in hand, as every moment of life and every moment of dying and death asks to be lived in and through you. Presence reveals vastness, the universal vastness, your vastness. The whole of creation is spinning in the orbit of your tiny life. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Presence asks you to not only believe this, but to know this. Life is vast. Death is vast. Your presence is vast. Perhaps the real question is not what is presence, but who is presence. Presence is not something separate from you. It is the ultimate reality of who you are. Presence is love. Life and death are love. You are love. So that is just the very beginning of the book. And as I have journeyed with my own forays into meeting death, which have been numerous times, and accompanying many souls into and through their dying journey, it was my own inner presence that became my greatest ally and guide. And though I have studied and practiced with many traditions who specialize in the death journey, I discovered that when I ignored my inner knowing in favor of the expert wisdom, it did not work. Opportunities of real healing were missed, wrong words at the wrong time uttered. And so what I have garnered is our greatest asset is our own inner wisdom. And certainly we can learn from others, we can learn from the expertise of others, but ultimately, when we are sitting at a deathbed or on our own, it is our own presence that is the greatest guide. Hence the name of the book. So for a brief overview, the book is a guide through the dying journey. It brings personal stories, simple meditations designed to align you with your inner presence, and soul reflections that speak directly to the heart and soul. So whether you are the nurse, the doula, the family, or the one dying, there is the invitation and gentle direction there for each to enter into their own wisdom and gentle-hearted healing. It begins from the time of diagnosis and moves through the initial shock, the uncertainty, the breakdown of the body, and the need for that body comfort, the need for soul comfort, and the larger questions that arise. Spiritual comfort for those who are aligned in that way, and even those who simply believe in the spirit of love, which ultimately is underneath all the faces and names and prayers. So we come back into presence is love, life and death are love. And the book does not shy away from the difficulties, the hard times, the anxiety that can be experienced, the depression, in my mother's case, the existential angst. It also dips into family difficulties and how grieving brings out the unhealed trauma. It moves through to the final release of the breath, and also shows how we can easily and gently assist the soul making its journey onward through very simple words and encouragement. So I also bring through some ancestral Celtic wisdom, grieving the physical loss, and then the celebration of life. And for those open and inclined, there is a entry into connecting with your loved one through the veils, your presence to their presence. So I thought to give you sort of a general example of this. It's a lot of the book I draw from different examples of my own experience, my experience with my mother, my sister, with clients, and this one is right at the beginning of her journey, where the declaration, what I call the declaration, has been made, hospice has been called. And so it's the second chapter, which is called Preparation for the Journey. And the quote is, "Death is your intimate friend. It is now time for you to come to know death intimately. No matter how death presents itself, entering the journey with your loving soul presence will lighten the way. Death is not a thief, but your lover." So here I'm going to read a little bit of the personal story about my mum. She wanted to die in her dreams. Easy, painless, no death mess, no burden at all. But here we were, each of the family, present, burdened by hearts of sorrow in our own way. One chose to cook and feed, trying to keep a dying body alive, and denying that death was already in my mother's room. Another retreated to the garage, hammering unbending steel into new shapes. Repentance and absolution fell from the anxious lips of those estranged. And then there were those who talked endlessly, filling the air with a cacophony of memories long gone. Love poured out in each of these gestures and actions. My mother graciously endured it all. I went to the place that I knew best, silence. I had many years of contemplative meditation that gave me the gift of sitting in the silent spaciousness of my being. There was, for me, no other place to go. I sat by her side, hour upon hour, day upon day, days and nights merging into one light. Out of her seeming sleep, my mum would suddenly emerge and speak of deep-hearted feelings and memories. Unknown experiences of love were stumbled upon. Unbidden thoughts brought grace. When her speaking mind was spent, she would drop back into her unseen world. At other times, her consciousness would jolt her into her human reality. "It was not meant to be like this," was one of her exclamations. Her death was not going as planned. There was to be no pain, only falling asleep and waking up in a new reality. She did not like what was presenting itself to her in this moment. She wanted it to change. She wanted it to go away. She did not want to die like this. Only the great silence was large enough to hold her. Only the sole presence of love could enfold her. You cannot argue with the dying. It is their life and death, not yours. When we can sit in the great silence, that is the silence of the soul, all can be received and loved just as it is. No denying, no fixing, no false optimism. All is welcome, all is love. Invite love in, invite silence. They will faithfully stay with you through every dark day and every darker night. Deep within every cycle of your now declared life is the silent presence of love. And the meditation that follows is lay all aside, all thoughts of what you think should be happening. Breathe into the quiet moment right here. Let yourself gently fall into a deeper spaciousness within, into a grander, wiser silence. Surrender. Let love in. And the soul reflection. As the sediment of the declaration settles, may you find an inner quiet. Take your time, look underneath, and see what you find. A breaking heart, sorrow, maybe even anger or bitterness. Keep looking beneath these. Perhaps you will find a small glow of love. Even though it is small, it can receive all the heartache, all the tears, all the false bravado. Love can love them all. Your job is to rest. Let love take over and lead the way. Let love make all the decisions. When to return calls, when to lie down, when to stare out the window and be grateful for the simple view. Love is here to stay. Be a good host and welcome it in. And which I'm delighted to say, of course, my mum didn't stay in that place. It was one of the places she visited, and simply sitting there in the love with her allowed her to fully experience what she was feeling and allowing it to pass through. So she passed through many, many different experiences But that great soul spaciousness is, I feel, and it became a great gift where for her the solace of the presence was enough. So, Melanie, I'd like to open up to you to bring forward what is most on your heart.
From the book, there was a particular section in the book that really spoke to me, and that was when someone is approaching death very slowly, as your mother seemed to be. And I'm sure all of us in death world have had loved ones and clients and friends on a very slow departure. And I loved I loved what you wrote of how even though death was coming, when it finally came, it was a big shock. And
Yeah.
I've had that experience. It's like we know they're going, they're at the end of their lives, and yet still it's like, what now? And you wrote, this is what I wrote down. I loved what you said. You said your mother stopped breathing and you stopped breathing at the same time. And it was almost like time stood still. And I just went, oh, I just love the way you described that. It just deeply resonated with my own experiences.
Mm, 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 mm. I I love that too. I think here it is. Death takes us into a timelessness. It's as if the dead are taking us on a journey into the eternal. That is exactly what they are doing. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that, but I love the way you expressed that, and it opened the moment from into a more just a more expansive space
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
All right. Right. Yeah, I remember my sister and I both standing there gazing. And and I will say this since you've brought it up, it was hilarious that um, my mum was one of those ones who she waited till no one was around so she could finally let go. Of course,
Well,
we'd been having a 24-hour vigil around her for a while. So, and I was in the shower, and my sister came running in and said, "Come, Mum's gone." And I went, "Gone where?" Like as if she'd packed a picnic and slipped out, It was just like, yeah, and that was the shock. It was like, what? Not what? Gone? Yeah, my sister went, no, gone. And it was this shock. And then with my sister and I, we just stood. And that's when I stopped breathing, and we just stood and gazed upon her. And it was like there were no thoughts, no prayers. There was just this, we were all enveloped, right, in this sacred presence. And it was just, yeah, just absolutely stunning. And that it just, the eternal sense was filling the whole room.
there
Yeah.
was there was another piece that leads into that touched me, and that's you said in the book that death occurs 20 to 30 minutes after the last exhale, and I hadn't heard it put that way. And I thought, and you said as the soul is unwinding from the physical, and I just love that, and I think it's helpful for all of us to know that piece, and maybe you can just
Yeah.
expand on that. Love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It'll help us, or it helps me stop rushing through the stages. So when someone has died, it's not like, okay, we now need to make all the phone calls. It's just pausing and being with that process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is something that's come from my intense training with the spiritual traditions. That it is known that the breath isn't the time of death. it is for our Western world doctors, but the real time of death is 20 to 30 minutes after, and that is when the spirit is unwinding from the body. And in fact, I'll speak that experience that I had. That in fact, when my sister and I were gazing, and then I was like, oh, I should get the others. And I have to say here, my mum died with her mouth open. And so we went, well, we tried to close it and it wouldn't close. And we were like, that's weird, it's been like 3 minutes. Rigor mortis doesn't set in. And we actually really tried quite hard. And it just wouldn't close. And then I said, well, we should get the others. And then my sister laid her hand on my arm and said, no, you do your thing first. And I went, oh, you're right. And so I stood at my mum's feet and I called and prayed into my soul guides. And many years ago, living in Arizona, I had a Native American guide who I called grandfather. And it was he who showed up. And I began doing these circular motions with my hand and chanting. And I realized, and I started working all the way up the body. And I realized, oh, I'm unwinding her soul. I'm unwinding the soul. And I just kept going, and it was beautiful. My sister stood like this warrior-ess, with one hand on my mum's shoulder, and the other, she was raised up going, go to the light, Mum, go to the light, Mum. And so we were both doing our thing, and then it was, it took 20 minutes, I would say, probably. I mean, I had no idea, but it was like, when I looked at it afterwards, it was probably 20 to 30 minutes, and it came to a natural completion. And my sister and I both felt it at the same time, that it was complete. And then my sister said, look. And my mother's mouth had closed of its own accord into a smile. And it was like, there it is. Now she was complete. Now she was done. And so it was a really beautiful affirmation in that way. And I think there is a soul reflection I've written on this. Be with your loved one. Don't call the authorities just yet. Plenty of time for that. Let your hand gently rest on their body still dying. The life force of their soul is unwinding. It is giving thanks to the body and the life it has lived. Join this gratitude in your own way. Help clear the pathway with your prayer. Here is one you may like. I thank the life force of your soul and body. May you unwind with ease. You can let go of the difficulties now and joyfully release the happy times. There is so much more where you are going. Don't be afraid. This is the time to untangle from your body, your energy and life. I love you and wish you the most wonderful of journeys. Keep going. Set yourself free. So this is something that we can easily do also for our loved ones, is just simple words of, even like, you've died now, because sometimes there is a confusion, or there's still a connection to the body, and we can just bring our own heart prayer, or use the words I've written in the book to just say, I think there's another one there where we don't need you now. You can go. We have you in our hearts. We have you in our memories. Let go. There is, it's been all prepared for you, you know, and even like if they're deeply connected to a religious being, divine being, or they're a family member, we can say they're waiting for you now. They're there for you. So it's always, I think, really good to find and know your loved one's connection and indeed your own connection before the death time, so that that doorway can be opened both for the person. I mean, my grandfather was the perfect example of this. Total atheist, didn't believe in anything beyond any veil, no veils. And yet on he was dying. Shortly before he died, his he called his wife Nan, and he had been struggling, you know, with breathing, struggling. And then suddenly he went into this incredible peace. And he said, "Oh, look, Nan, the ladies in white are there. They've come to take me. I've been playing games with my keyboard tilted for. They've come to take me." And so it was like, my Nan couldn't see them, but she could feel them. And so here was this complete atheist who even he experienced these ladies in white, whoever they were, whether they were his family, whether they were angelic beings, that I don't know. I wasn't there at the time. um, and I think more and more the medical profession are coming to realize that we used to say it was morphine, you know, hallucinations. But now the doctors are realizing and nurses are realizing when the patients start talking about seeing other beings, they're very, very close. Very close. So, yeah, Melanie, I want to ask you about your experience with your mum and her dying.
Sure, I'm happy to share it. I haven't shared it in a big group before, so here goes. So, my mother died last year, aged 88, on the 8th of December. And an ordinary day, it was completely unexpected, even though she was towards the end of her life and was on a very slow departure. Um, it was a typical day for me. It was a rainy day in late spring. I'd walk down to my local cafe where I often start the day with a coffee and my morning writing pages. And I was just finishing up when my phone rang, and I see from the phone it's Grace, one of the head nurse from the care home where my mother lives. And so I answer the phone, and Grace says, "Oh, Melanie, your mother's had another fall." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, another fall." And she said she's not it possibly a medical event, and you know, you might want to pop in later. And I said, "Oh, I'll definitely be by before lunchtime." Okay, thanks for letting me know. I immediately started texting my three children and packing my things up. And I'd finished texting, and the phone rings again, and it's Grace. I don't know if you had this experience, but there's a note in her voice. Her voice dropped down, and she said, "Melanie, you need to come now." And I'm like, "Oh," and hung up the phone, just threw everything in my bag and sprinted out the door. And I had a good 5 minute run up the hill in the rain to get back to my place, up the stairs, in the front door, toss the umbrella aside because I have to get the car to drive down to my mother's. And I'm looking around for the garage door opener, trip over the umbrella, and I'm back out the door, And I honestly, I couldn't even tell you what I was wearing, what was in my hands. I just knew I had moments to get there. I drove down the hill, and I was very grateful there was a car park in their car park. It's often full. And I'm running inside, and I look to my right to the reception area, which I always kind of grit my teeth as we always have to sign in, and it takes ages. It's very laborious and it drives me crazy because it always takes time away from being with mum. But this time there was no one there. So I sprint past reception and I'm jogging down the corridor. And then there's another corridor. Then I'm up in the lift. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, wow, look at me running towards death. Haven't I come a long way? Because I spent most of my life running away from death. And so I had this real moment of reflection as the lift's going up, snail-like speed. That, oh wow, I'm really showing up for this, and I don't know what I'm going to find when I get there. The lift opens, and she's only 2 doors down. My heart's racing. Oh gosh, here we go. The doors open, and I walk into her room, and it's not what I expected. So it's full of people. It's full of nursing staff and all sorts of staff are there surrounding her bed. There's even someone cleaning the bathroom. And one of the nurses has got her phone and over mum's face and is FaceTiming my cousin. And it's very loud and disjointed. The reception's terrible. And it's just the noise. And I don't know whether it really was noisy. It just felt so overwhelming to me and so wrong. And the very opposite of what a gentle, respectful, sacred letting go would look like. And if I hadn't done the work that I've done over the last 15 years, I would never have been able to show up in that moment with such certainty and say very loudly, everyone, get out of the room. Turn that phone off. Get out. And I literally swept them out of the room. I don't remember anyone. There might have been some murmurings, and I was conscious that was very blunt and probably rude. But I knew there were moments because as I had arrived behind everybody, and there was a gap like this, I could see through people, and I could see Mum's face. She was propped up on the pillows, and she just moved her head like that, so she could see me fully. And we made eye contact, and that's when I said, "Oh my gosh, it's now." Got everyone out of the room, and then I ran forward and I was holding her hand, and I said, "I'm here, I'm here. I made it." She really wanted me to be with her if I could be. And there was one nurse still left. That was Grace that had phoned me, and she said, "Oh, Melanie, it won't be long." And she said, "I'm going to leave you. I'll check back. I'll check back in 10 minutes." And she left and shut the door. And it was just bliss. It was so beautiful. And I scooted around the bed and I hopped up on the other side where there was more space. And I lay down beside her and I was holding her hand and sort of snuggled into her. And I was watching her and I was crying and I was talking to her, and I was just, it was pure grace in that moment. It was just, like you said, time stood still. And I was watching, and then after a while, I wasn't aware of her taking another breath, but I was listening. I was waiting for that last gasp, and there wasn't one. There was no gasp. She just let go and was gone, and she never took another breath. And I love what you said, that death happens sometime later, because I do believe that she stopped breathing, but the presence was still there. And I just stayed with her and lay there with her, talking or not talking for quite some time. And then the nurse came back in and gave me the nod and then left again. And it was just divine. It really was amazing.
That sacred moment is so special. It really is very, very special. And something that I think is very relevant for all of us. The question is, what do we want at the moment of our death? Because, when we're thinking about preparing for death, and then there's all the practical stuff, getting all your paperwork, etc., etc. And then there's like all the particular, perhaps, service or the way you want to be buried, or how you want your remains to be dealt with, and, all these sorts of things. But what is that moment of death for you? How does that look? And for those of us who are looking after others, I know for my own mum, I was put in a very, I would say, unenviable position, um, where I was given the role of spokesperson for my mum. And I didn't realize that this was going on. Hospice actually explained it to me, because my mum and I were very close. She could be totally honest with me, like exactly what she wanted and what she didn't want. But with the other family members, and, she couldn't quite be so honest. And she was very accommodating towards them. And for instance, I remember somebody saying that there was a neighbor from a, long time ago where we grew up. And I said to Mum, do you want to see her? And she said to me, "Oh God, no, that woman talks so much." And she'd already seen her once, and the woman had just talked at her so much. And there were things going on, that people putting music on, trying to cheer Mum up, and I'm like, that's not what she needs. And it was um it was an extraordinary time to be the spokesperson, and to say no visits today, and that means all the family, you know. And that didn't go down well. Like, the spokesperson role didn't go down well, because I was delivering news that they didn't want to know. So that I've written about that in the book, because that's very important, too. I think that sometimes those difficulties with family come, but in the end, um, it was the quiet spaciousness she wanted. And my mum also asked, this was very beautiful. She was quite alternative in her thinking with health, right from when before I was even born. I'd say, she was eating muesli when people thought it was birdseed. So she was quite ahead of her time, and she believed in color therapy. And she would ask me to go in every evening and to fill her with light. And I was guided to fill her with golden light. And this was extraordinary, that as the evenings went on, I suddenly realized that this, what we were doing, because she would just be in total receptivity, that she was becoming aware of her own inner presence and soul. And one night she exclaimed to me, "Oh, it's so light." And another, "Oh, it's so beautiful." And this really helped her prepare for that sacred moment, because I've seen a lot of souls confused about leaving the body, and like, where are they, and disorientation. But Mum didn't have that, because she had many trial runs of her soul, her true essence. So, this is something for us again. Are we preparing for that? Are we preparing for that sacred moment? So, what I would like to do is to take us into a meditation, that yeah, to see what might come forward of how we want our sacred moment to look. And this I've got to begin with a story that's a recent story that just touched my heart. Of all the years I've worked with people, this brought me to tears in the moment. It was just not. It was just the end of July this year, and I was teaching a class, and a woman was on there, um, and I'll name her Dear Claire, beautiful soul. And at the end, she shared that she had my book and that it had helped her and her partner who was dying. It had helped them tremendously to walk through the stages of his dying. And then she said, on the last day, it was his last day, and they knew, he asked her to read over and over and over again one of my prayers. It's called To the Liberated One. And she said she read it over and over and over until he died in peace. And that was probably the most touching thing I have, and most humbling, grateful thing I have heard and received. And he was such a beautiful soul. Oh my goodness. So, what I want us to do is I'm going to lead us to see what might come forward for us. So, let's begin by focusing on our breath, taking in some gentle inhalations and gentle exhalations. Again, finding your own natural rhythm of breathing. Breathing into your heart space. And creating a spaciousness with the breath, an openness. Breathing deeply into your belly now. Letting the belly soften and loosen. And again, creating space. Knowing that every moment asks you to let go and to let be. Letting go into love. And dying to what has been. Dying just to this day that is now departed. Dying to any worries or concerns. Letting go and letting be. and inviting your deeper soul presence. Your sacred presence within. Breathing into this loving presence. Opening to this loving presence. And just for this moment, imagine that you are approaching that sacred moment of dying. There is an inner knowing that the time is coming. There is an inner peace. Of knowing you are taken care of. And now open to what you would like at this time. If it is at all possible. And knowing that the hearing is the last of the senses to leave. Gently feel into what your soul may ask of you. And breathe. And gently opening your eyes. And this is also a beautiful time to reflect on what you may wish for in that beautiful last 20 to 30 minutes, that time after that. How long you want your body to be left before it is moved. All of those things. Perhaps somebody just there to say to you also, this is a very Buddhist way of being, just to come very close to the body and whisper, you have died. You have died. Just a gentle whisper. And saying the new journey is awaiting. So that you get orientation. Some souls will go straight, others will stay around the body for some time. So it'll be very intriguing to know for each one of us what we will do. we can ponder these things now, which is really good, because in the Gnostic tradition there is an understanding, and it is very much that everything that we do a dress rehearsal for, so to speak, when we die, we do remember it. So that, for instance, when we'll be dying, we'll be remembering these conversations we've been having here right now tonight. We'll be remembering that we've gone in and asked, what do I want? And all of these become soul triggers to go, yes, that's right. So that our onward journey is easier too. But that's the next book. It's when we really get into that. So this is just the foray into, but a very important one. A very important one. I think for death doulas especially, that their work just doesn't finish, there's that sacred moments afterwards, and the sacred ways you can help the families, and posit little things like this into their minds. And I know I did a class where we actually asked a dear friend of ours who we knew, we trusted, we asked them to record what they wanted us to know about ourselves as we were dying. So they just felt into their being what they wanted to say to us as they were dying. And I have a dear friend in the United States, and I asked her, and it was so beautiful what she said. It was like so beautiful. It just brings tears to my eyes every time I listen to it. And because she really closed my life, and she was like, your work is done now. You've helped many souls, your work is done. Now is the time for you to return and be held and nourished by that great mother who you love, and she loves you. And, and it was such a beautiful outpouring of love that we couldn't pour out the same amount of love to ourselves. I don't think it was. So that may be even something to consider. And because I would love for this woman to be by my side, I would love for her to be there at that sacred moment. But because she's in California and God knows where I will be, I've got a new idea of having destination funeral instead of the destination wedding. So, so we've got the recording. You know, she said, I'll be on a plane if I can get there, but if I can't, you got the recording. So even that's something to consider. I know we did that for a friend of mine for his mum, who we all loved. She had recording after recording from all these different people as she was dying. So just some other thoughts there. So I want to open up the space. Um, and just you can unmute yourselves and just to bring forward anything that might be coming to your mind right now about anything at all, any sharing experiences you've had or you're having right now, or any questions, anything at all. You don't, I can't sort of see you all at once, so just unmute.
I can start. Well, while people are
Yeah.
getting organized, I'll add in one more
Mm,
postscript to my mother's death, and I kind of feel like I'm stating the obvious because I know you're all in the work, but this came as a surprise to me, and I have been through quite a few, well, many deaths, but it wasn't until my mother's death that I learned this new piece for myself, and that was when she died. That was one layer of goodbye. But what followed were layer after layer after layer of letting go. And the
mm,
next letting go was when her body was washed and dressed and she was taken out of the room. So that was, she left her room, her apartment that she had been living in. That was another, she left for the last time. So that was
mm,
quite significant. And and then she left the building for the last time. And the residents and the staff formed a little guard of honor as
mm,
she went out to the hearse, and that was really beautiful and really moving. And
mm.
another goodbye, and then she went to the crematorium and we had an intimate gathering and another goodbye there, which actually was a very long goodbye because the crematorium operator, who's a friend of mine, had forgotten to turn the oven on. So we
Oh.
were there for ages, waiting for the oven to heat up, and we're sitting there, and I'm there with the children. We're drinking cups of tea, and I'm going, oh my gosh, we've got all these other people coming in, and it's like I said to him, how much longer do you think it'll be? And my son went out and had a look, and he said, I don't think it's even on. And it was like, oh no, oh no. So there was, we were in the grief and the departure, and then there was laughter, and then back in again, and so that was another goodbye. And then she and I had planned a birthday celebration for her, and two weeks later, and I was to bring a whole lot of beautiful French morning tea for all her neighbors on the same floor as her. And I said to them, we're still going to do it. We're going to do it in her honor. And so we had this beautiful, very elaborate morning tea in her honor. And that was divine. It was just, she would have loved to have been there. I'm sure she was. But my point is that often we put a lot of pressure on ourselves on one aspect of it, whether it's the dying or whether it's the funeral, as though we've got to get it just right. And I just want to encourage people that you don't have to get it all into one event, because there will be many opportunities to say goodbye. There'll be the first birthday, the first Christmas, the
Yeah.
first anniversary, the memorial, the funeral, whatever. So I just really encourage people to
Yeah.
many opportunities, many goodbyes. And of course, every goodbye is an opportunity to sink deeper into the new relationship with our person,
Yeah.
the non-physical relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. Angela, would you like to say something? Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Gosh, that was you put me on the spot.
Oh, sorry, I just
Um,
thought you unmuted yourself, so I thought you were
well,
getting.
I know because you said get yourself organised, and I've been faffing around trying to get myself organised, and finally managed to do it. So yeah, the whole thing is extraordinary. Thank you. I'm really. I mean, I've been writing notes like Billio, um, teacher. So what do you expect? Fascinating. No, 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 don't pick on me now. I'll talk later because I haven't really got anything to say at the moment. I'm sort
That's
of,
fine.
it's all happening here. But
Yep,
yes,
that's fine. Sorry to put you on the spot, but nice to.
it's okay. Mm.
Uh, well, this might be while people are sort of contemplating. Oh, Marama. Yes? No. Yes?
Yes, yes.
There we are.
Well, first of all, big thanks, Megan,
Mm,
for your work, your Mahi, your book.
mm.
I was gifted it by a good friend, Carol. So thank you,
Oh,
Carol, for the gift. And also, I want to thank Melanie. I want to thank Mel. If this is the first time you've spoken that, my heart is with you. I mean, this is big to lose a mother.
mm,
I lost mine at 24 and I was beside her. And now I'm 72, and that's shaped my work. So we get shaped, as you have experienced, from all of your work, and all of us have. So I just want to acknowledge your mother and the warrior in you that
mm,
knew exactly what to do at that moment and cleared the space so that she could have her sacred moment and her
mm,
sacred moment with you. So thank you, Mel, for that. Thank you so much.
mm. Thank you for bringing that forward, Marama. That's what I also wanted to say that, Melanie, when you said, "Oh, I was probably blunt and rude." It was like, "Oh no, you weren't. You were fierce and strong." And that's the real crone who was just no. And that was absolutely needed in that moment. And I had there are times when fierceness is needed. I know I was in the United States when I first learned that my mum was in hospital, and my brother's I rang, and my brother said, "Oh, your mum's in hospital." I said, "Well, why, what's happening?" He goes, "Oh, we don't know." I went, "What do you mean we don't know?" And he goes, "Well, they won't tell us anything." And I had this inner knowing right then, she's dying. She's not just in hospital, she is dying. So I got on the phone and I rang the hospital in New Zealand and got hold of her nurse. And the nurse told me, I said, "What's happening with my mother? You know, like, what is wrong with her?" And they said to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't tell you anything. It's private." And you should have heard me. You think you were blunt and rude. I roared down that phone. I said, "Private! I am her daughter." And I said, "I am in the United States. I need to know if I need to get on a plane and be with my mother." And there was just this long silence and then this intake of breath. And she goes, "She has months, not years." And I said, "Thank you very much." Put the phone down. And then I went and I grieved and I howled at the lake and I howled and I growled and I just wept so much. And then I made my reservation on the plane. So that fierceness. And when I told my brother what was going on, he said, "Well, how did you find that out?" And I'm like, I roared. That's how I found out. So there are times, and I know a friend of mine in Wellington that her mother died in the hospital, and they were trying to pull the body out to take it to the morgue. And my friend was like, no, she is not going to any morgue. She is going home. And they said, oh no, that's not how we do it. And my friend was like, no, you're not touching her. You are not doing that. And they said, but that's how we always do it. And my friend got very fierce and just made them back off till she could get the transport to take her mother home where she wanted to be. So times of fierceness are needed.
Thank you. One other little moment of fierceness. I think I kind of set the standard there at the home, because everyone just went along with what the nurse aides and the caregivers said. And so I'll make two comments. One was, let's all think about what we want for our loved ones, for ourselves. I think another valid question, if you're not quite sure what you want, another good question is, maybe you know what you don't want, because sometimes there is great clarity around what we don't want. I mean, I knew I did not want a whole group of strangers that were paid to be there at the time around my mother and I certainly wouldn't want that for myself.
Mm.
I'd rather have nobody than
Mm.
people I didn't know. But the other moment was after she died, and one of the grandchildren decided they wanted to come and see her before she was cremated, and had an 8-hour drive to get there. And so I delayed everything, much to their horror. So they had expected that the body would be collected by a certain time. And I said, oh no, we've changed our mind. She's now not going to be picked up till late tomorrow afternoon. And there was a very significant pause.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, so what? You have to pay for the room.
You're right.
We've got the room for another week. In fact, we only had a week to
Right.
empty out everything.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't what they're used to, but
Good.
it was actually really beautiful, because once she was laid out and I had flowers, I had her hands here and I had fresh flowers here. It was very beautiful. Her neighbors all came in to pay their respects, whereas if she'd just sort of been snuck out,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's embarrassing. Oh, so she's died. It's so sorry. This was really.
Yeah, this is where the
Slow.
Celtic ancestry comes in with the wake, which is so beautiful, where that is just, the body is there in the home and everybody comes and people tell stories and they laugh and they cry and they, eat and they drink and they, even they play games and they do everything, and it's just the honoring. Yes, because otherwise there's this like, oh, they've just disappeared. And so, yes, again, it's that, disappearing death, keeping death hidden. So, yeah, instead of honoring it, yeah, beautiful. Here's to fierceness when it's needed. and and I am just going to put this in right now because I know otherwise I will totally forget, because it just came to me for all the participants who are living in New Zealand, nowhere else. If you wish to order a book, I can send you a signed copy for a reduced rate. So it's I think including postage it will be $38. So it's like paying $29 for the book, which is, they retail for anywhere from 35 to 40. So just email me on my website, megandawn.life, and we can arrange that. For those of you who are in the UK, it is on amazon.co.uk. And I think it might even be with Gardeners. I'm not sure about that, but so just so you know. And it is also an audio book, which I think works really well with the meditations and the reflections as well. So sorry about that advertising plug right there, but I knew I'd forget otherwise. So is there anyone else who would like to share anything or ask anything or Okay. So let's just feel into, yeah, what might be. Seeing if there's something in here. Favorite. Well, this is always my favorite because I'm such a mother lover of all mothers and of the cosmic proportion of the mother, the cosmos, the cosmic mother, the universe. And this is a prayer. This is probably the prayer I would like to hear over and over as I die, actually. Bye, Sarah Clark. Thank you for being here. So this is, beloved mother, I am your child. No matter how old I am, I will never cease to be your child. You are my mother, the one who has birthed me into this existence, and the one to whom I will return. Back into the vast safety of your cosmic womb. Already I feel your tender caress as you breathe into my soul, calling me home, calling me back into you. I begin to breathe with you, and my tears fall into the crevices of my life, healing the unloved places of shame and sadness, loss and forgetfulness, and any other wayward feelings looking for love. I thank you. You are my mother. I am your child, returning home. That's actually inspired by a Buddhist prayer. That's how they perceive the vastness of consciousness, the vastness of presence I spoke about in the beginning. They understand it in the feminine, and they understand it as the great mother, and that we are all children returning home at our death. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to all of you who'll be watching this via the recording. So I appreciate you. I'll send out the recording to everybody, and if you feel free to send that on. You allow multiple presenters to share. Okay, let me just see, just a message. Anna, are you wanting, sorry, Anna, are you wanting to share something on the screen? Is that what, I've got a message come up here. Are you all seeing that message? No.
Nope.
Sorry, there's a message come up on the screen. Maybe it's somebody requesting to share something. Okay, I think I'm gonna decline this. Maybe someone's just did something there. Sorry about that. All right, so feel free to share, or maybe that is, share the recording with anybody that you would like to share it out to. And buy the book. Spread the love, as they say. And yeah, happy reflecting on your own sacred moment and the unwinding. Always beautiful to unwind our life at the end of each day. So many blessings to you all, and thank you to Melanie and to everybody who's come along, and happy journeys, because who knows when we're all going to take that last breath. But I do hope to see you again sometime. You never know. All right, many blessings, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Melanie. Bye.
Thank you to you both. Thanks.
Okay, bye.